Hi everybody, welcome to Combat Japan. I'm your host Andres Vergara. Today we're going to be reacting and recapping the RIZIN Landmark 14 event, which was held on June 6th in the Zebu Arena in Sendai, Japan. We had our flyweight championship headliner between Hiromasa Ogikubo and Makoto Shinryu. And ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves a new flyweight champion in Makoto Shinryu, who defeated Ogikubo via decision. Before we get into that, just a little news and notes on RIZIN, which were announced on the broadcast. They announced the headliner for the upcoming Landmark 15 event, which will be in Hiroshima in the Green Arena, and that'll be held on July 18th. And that'll be headlined by Kyohei Hagiwara versus Karshiga Daubek. Um, Hagiwara is a really popular fighter in Japan. He doesn't have a great record. He's a lot more like maybe like a Cowboy Cerrone type, or you know, maybe like a Mark Hunt, where he's popular because of his fighting style, but not necessarily his resume. Kyohei Hagiwara is 9-12. Um, he's coming off of I believe it was a no contest loss because his opponent missed weight by a big margin in the last RIZIN event. So in RIZIN, if you miss weight, you have the option to still take the fight as the person who made weight. But the way it works is if you win, you get a win on your record. But if you lose, then it turns into a no contest. And that's what ended up happening to Hagiwara. So we have this action-packed fighter going against Karshiga Daubek from Kazakhstan. And I believe he only has one loss in RIZIN. He's 18-3 overall. He's a finisher. He's a striker, and so is Hagiwara for that matter. But Daubek has the more accomplished record for sure. So this will be an interesting matchup. I think in Japan they're not very concerned about record, so it's not like boxing where like you get one loss and you're washed. They much more care about the story of each fighter, where they came up. So, for example, Hagiwara, I believe, started out as a street fighter, and people kind of followed his story and to having success in professional MMA. And people get invested a lot more in the story rather than just stats. But that being said, stats are there for a reason. And if you're facing somebody that's 18-3 and has a ton of finishes like Daubek, yeah, that'll be a tough assignment for sure. But yeah, it'll be a great test for Hagiwara and see where he's at in the featherweight division. In addition to that, they announced RIZIN 54 in Tokyo, and that is going to be headlined by the rising superstar Kiyoma Akimoto, who's fresh off his victory against Patchy Mix, versus Kleber Koike, who's one of the more accomplished grapplers in RIZIN. This is also an interesting one. Akimoto is 12-1. He's only 20 years old. He's one of the biggest prospects in Japan right now. Um, he's I would imagine that the winner of this fight will probably end up challenging for the belt against Shadulayev, who's been unstoppable, by the way. If you get a chance to check out any fighter in RIZIN, Razabali Shadulayev from Kazakhstan is it. That guy is incredible. He's undefeated, I believe 17-0 at this point. But yeah, Akimoto is upcoming prospect, and they're putting him against a former RIZIN champion, Kleber Koike, who's I believe he has over 30 submissions on his record. He's basically just an elite grappler, which will be interesting because somebody like Kiyoma, he doesn't have any submission wins. It's not to say he doesn't have any grappling, but it'll be a good test for him. And technically, Patchy Mix is an accomplished grappler as well, and he was able to dispose of him fairly quickly. But there are questions about where Patchy is in terms of his career. Is he kind of well past his prime? We'll see. We'll see what he does, I guess, moving forward. But yeah, that's an exciting main event as well. All right, so moving back to RIZIN Landmark 14, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna show my screen, and we're gonna just go down the card. One moment here. All right, so we had our main event. This was the flyweight championship match between Makoto Shinryu and Hiromasa Ogikubo. There was some drama leading into this one. Ogi Kubo used to train Shinryu, so that they had a kind of like a student-teacher relationship, and they developed beef. I'm not sure why. I think maybe it was. I'm not gonna say it's not genuine, but definitely it was used to build up the tension in the fight. And I think Ogi Kubo made some really funny remarks, trash talk against Shinryu about because Shinryu spent time training at American Top Team, and I think Ogi Kubo said something like, "Yeah, you were just cleaning the toilets there. You were just a janitor," and that got a lot of buzz as well. But yeah, these guys had some bad blood coming in. As I mentioned in my preview video, Ogi Kubo, the much more experienced fighter, fought bigger names, and Shinryu, obviously, coming in this at 22-5, still very experienced, has the deep championship run. The deep MMA run that he went on. So yeah, so breaking this one down, it was a decision win for Shinryu. Round one, Shinryu was up to his old tricks. And what I mean by that, he's just very good at controlling you, taking you down, right? So in round one, early on, Shinryu gets a body lock on Ogi Kubo. They press up against the fence, and Shinryu gets this weird control position where he has his right leg. It, so it's almost like a back take, but he has one hook in, and then instead of having the other hook in with his left leg, he chose to have control of Ogi Kubo's left shoulder. So Ogi Kubo has his right leg hooked by Shinryu and his left shoulder being controlled by Shinryu as well. And they kind of sat there for several minutes, throwing kind of just little shots here and there. You can't really generate a lot of power when you're on the ground and holding onto someone and just kind of doing this. But it's still control for Shinryu, so they were there for a while. I'm not sure if that got broken up and they got stood up, or if Ogi Kubo was able to escape. But ultimately, they by the end of the round, Ogi Kubo did escape, and then they started trading combinations. That was a pretty convincing Shinryu round, particularly because of the control there. Moving on to round two, this is the one Ogi Kubo round I gave. So once again, Shinryu starts with a body lock. They go against the fence. Shortly after, Ogi Kubo was able to get out of that, and then they start trading punches and combinations. And Ogi Kubo was landing some really good left hooks and just kind of round punches here and there. Out of the striking, I think Ogi Kubo was the aggressor. He was always on the front foot and just kind of dictating where to go in terms of the striking, which doesn't surprise me. I think Shinryu has you know competent striking, but he's more concerned with grappling. As far as Shinryu goes, his jab was landing quite a bit. He just kept throwing this quick jab and touching Ogi Kubo over and over again, and he also did some tie clinching, which was cool. So Shinryu, I think once or twice throughout maybe this round, definitely once or twice throughout the fight, he got the plum, the tie clinch, and just started throwing knees at Ogi Kubo. None of them landed to the head. I think they were all just body shots or to the chest. This was the one Ogi Kubo round where he was able to kind of outpace Shinryu in the striking. Moving on to round three. At this point, I had a 1-1 coming into this, and Ogi Kubo just, as I mentioned in my previous video, he's the decision king, right? And part of that is being very savvy about how to win the judges and how to win matches without actually finishing. So Ogi Kubo is up to his old tricks. He gets a clinch and immediately presses against the fence and just kind of just sits there and throw pitter patter, just throws body shots. Nothing with finishing intention, but just kind of controlling and eating up the clock a little bit, right? You're in a controlling position. You're pressing your opponent against the cage, kind of letting the time run down a little bit. But in some of these exchanges against the fence, Shinryu throws an elbow, like a kind of like a step forward elbow like that, and just cuts the hell out of Ogi Kubo's head, and he's just bleeding like crazy. It's one of the nastiest cuts I've seen. So they had to stop the fight just to address it. Given that it's a third round in a championship fight, they didn't stop anything, but they definitely had to clean it up. So anyway, post cut, Ogi Kubo really amps up the aggression, in my opinion. I think he was trying to make up for the fact that he was hurt and damage is scored as a criteria in RIZIN for how to win. So at this point, it's probably a Shinryu round. So after the cut and some striking, Shinryu ends up getting yet another body lock takedown and works his way to the back. He ends up, this is near the end of the round, Shinryu ends up going for an arm and guillotine, which is not a great idea at this point because not only are they both sweaty, but then there's all the blood, so you're super slippery. You're also tired. And if it fails, you end up on bottom, as Damian Brown pointed out in the broadcast, and that's exactly what happened. So, this is maybe like with 20 seconds left. Shinryu tries to go for that arm and guillotine, fails. Ogikubo ends up on top, and he just starts trying to just throw strikes from the guard, from the open guard there, and that was it for the fight. So the judges scored it for Makoto Shinryu, and rightfully so. I agree with the decision, but this doesn't really address a lot of my concerns I have with Shinryu, which I talked about in my previous video, which is this guy needs to freaking learn how to finish, man. If you're so concerned with grappling, but once you get somebody down or have control over them, you don't do anything really to advance your position or finish the fight, then I'm not sure what that's worth in terms of other than just outpointing someone, right? And hey, if it works, it works. But like, I think you should be trying to finish when you can, and especially if you have a dominant position. So I know Shinryu is coming off of a Kimura win off of his last fight, and I think he maybe has like 6 or 7 submissions out of his 23 wins now. But he's such a dominant grappler. Either submit someone or ground and pound them to a finish. Like, what this whole like, I'm just gonna sit here and hit you until we either get stood up or the time runs out. I'm not a big fan of that. It's still exciting. Like, they had some nice exchanges back and forth, but I just think Shinryu, much like Ogikubo, they're just I just wish it was look for a finish more. But anyway, that's beside the point. So we have our new flyweight champion crowned, Makoto Shinryu, who will likely be defending against the winner of the previous fight in this card, which was between Tony Laramie and Yuki Motoya. Move over to that. All right, so this was a flyweight bout between the wild man, the Canadian Tony Laramie, versus the veteran Yuki Motoya. This one also went all 3 rounds. Tony Laramie defeats Yuki Motoya via decision. This bout actually happened at 130 pounds instead of a true flyweight. I believe Tony Laramie, he was on antibiotics because he had some sort of dog bite like a week or 2 before. And cutting weight on antibiotics is very difficult. I think your body retains more water when you're on that medication. So Yuki Motoya agreed to that, and they fought at 130 pounds. But no matter for Tony Laramie, starting round 1, he immediately rocked Yuki right away. I thought it was going to be a first round finish, but Yuki Motoya was able to recover quite well. They went to the ground. Tony Laramie ended up in his half guard up top, just worked his ground and pound. Definitely used the cage, as I mentioned earlier. I think Tony just has a lot of experience training in the West and just kind of using the cage as a weapon, right? So he was able to press against the cage. Ended up mounting him at the end of the round and just throwing ground and pound. Pretty dominant first round for Tony Laramie. Moving on to round 2, Yuki Motoya tried a few takedowns, and they just kept immediately getting stuffed by Tony. He could just kind of see it coming. In addition to stuffing any takedown attempts, he had the better of the striking. He just looked a lot faster. He had more in the bag. He did a lot of body shots actually. From left hook body shots, he would just punish the body. Yeah, he would just punish the body, and he kept landing both of his hooks quite a bit. He did not throw as many leg kicks as his previous fight, where he just completely annihilated his opponent's leg. But still, got the better of the striking, was able to prevent takedowns in round 2. In round 3, again, stuffed another takedown. He had a lot of intelligent cage control. Tony was deciding where everything took place. He kept cornering Motoya back to the edge and just kind of crowding him and not letting him escape from the exchanges. And he would just press up, the clinch, and then press up against the cage. Yeah, just kept getting the better of the striking, and also won the third round in my opinion. So in my opinion, this was a very, very dominant win for Tony Laramie, which is interesting because Yuki Motoya did beat the current champion, the new champion, uh, Makoto Shinryu in the flyweight Grand Prix. So this will be an interesting matchup. Uh, Tony Laramie challenging for the flyweight title. One thing, it did look like, actually, it pretty much confirmed. Tony Laramie hurt his leg or maybe foot. I think at the end of the fight he was staying off of it, and then they showed him limping around, and you know, I'm not sure what happened. I hope it's something minor, maybe like a sprain instead of some sort of break. But he's a crazy tough guy, so I'm sure he'll be fine. But yeah, I think it was so dominant. I think they were reading the scorecards. One judge had a 30-25 for Laramie, so 10-8 rounds there. All right, that is it for the flyweight picture. Moving on to the big boys here. All right. Okay, so we had Taka Kenshin, the former sumo wrestler, versus Ryo Sakai, the veteran from Deep. One thing worth noting here, Taka Kenshin actually missed weight at heavyweight. He was like 2 pounds overweight, so he missed 265. And Ryo Sakai had the option to do the what I talked about earlier, the miss weight rules, but he ended up taking the match under regular rules, so he did not go for the option of turning it into a no contest if he were to lose. Just a reminder, Taka Kenshin came into this at a 3-4 record, winning his last two, I believe. And Ryo Sakai came into this with a 15-14 record, so just slightly over 500. Okay, so this was a really straightforward fight. It ended in round one, and it was as Ryo Sakai and Taka Kenshin were feeling each other out, Ryo, for some reasons, decided to rush Taka Kenshin, in which Taka Kenshin hit him with a right cross as he was charging forward, which really, really hurt Sakai and dropped him. And then immediately Taka Kenshin gets on top of him and starts raining hammer fists and elbows. And that's all she wrote for Ryo Sakai. This one was super quick. Honestly, you don't want Taka Kenshin on top of you, just ever. That sounds like hell. So getting dropped like that and then immediately having him come after you, that would be just a horrible, horrible experience. It kind of reminded me of when Anderson Silva, like a less flashy version of when Anderson Silva knocked out Forrest Griffin, where he was just kind of charging at him and he just hit him going backwards. I might have to rewatch it again, but there's no way it was as cool as Anderson. But yeah, same principle. Sakai just charged and got hit with a counter from Taka Kenshin, and that's it. And just quickly wanted to mention, I did pick Taka Kenshin to win. I should have mentioned in the other two, I had picked Tony Laramie to win as well, so I got that one right. And then I had picked Ogi Kubo to win because I thought he would be craftier, but I said I was rooting for Shinryu, so I'll take that as a win. But I picked wrong on that one. Okay, moving on. All right, so we had Noah Bay versus Bilal Kai Haga at lightweight. This one was real fun. So immediately in round one, Bilal Kai Haga gets hit with a head kick by Noah Bay and drops immediately. It looked like it was over right there, but he had a miraculous recovery. He was able to. I think the broadcast was saying that they were saying that he got knocked out with the kick and woke up when he hit the ground. It was just a crazy recovery. It looked over, but he was able to bounce back from that left head kick from Noah Bay and ends up surviving the round. So just props to Bilal for surviving that. He was able to have his composure and actually, put up a fight. But Noah Bay, being experienced and having that Rise kickboxing background, he was able to control a lot of the striking and get through the round as well. Moving on to round two, kind of the same story with the left head kick. It was the same head kick as round one, and Bilal gets hit with it. He gets hurt, but keeps going, which is interesting. So he's been kicked in the head twice. And as soon as that happens, I think Bay resets, throws maybe like one or two punches, and then throws it a third time. And that was the clincher. So a left head kick just completely takes Bilal out of this world. He's just completely flattened out. And what a tough guy, man. It took 3 head kicks in 2 rounds to put him away. But yeah, that was a real fun performance by Noah Bay. Um, these are kickboxers, man. You got to watch out for those kicks. All right. Oh, and also, as far as my picks, I did pick Noah Bay to win this fight as well. Given his kickboxing experience, I figured he'd be able to pull this through. Whereas Bilal, he's what is he, 7-5, and from Grachan, which is a smaller organization. Whereas Noah Bay has experience in professional kickboxing, um, where I believe he had a belt. So that's why I went with Noah. And so far for picks, we're 3-1. All right, moving on. Okay, we have our fight between our two veterans, Yusuke Yachi and Isao at lightweight. This one was Isao's RIZIN debut. He had a long, long history fighting in Pancrase, which is one of the oldest Japanese MMA promotions. He was the king of Pancrase, which is what they call their champion. He also had a brief stint twice with Bellator. Did not do so well there, but he never fought in RIZIN. And Yusuke Yachi, RIZIN veteran, I think he has the second most fights in RIZIN. Both these guys similar age. And yeah, I actually ended up picking Isao on this one to win. But unfortunately for me, I was wrong. But fortunately for Yusuke Yachi, he was able to pull this off. This went all 3 rounds. Yusuke Yachi won via decision. Honestly, when I was watching this live, I should have got this pick, dude. I think even Damian Brown agreed with me. He said I'd give it to Isao, and so did I. But it was kind of an uneventful fight. So we'll just break it down real quick. So starting with round one, they feel each other out for a little bit. Yusuke Yachi tries to go for a takedown, but it gets countered by Isao. Does some judo throw, some sort of hip throw, and they kind of just sit there. And after the takedown, Yusuke Yachi is able to get out of it. They end up clinching a lot in this fight, which is why I said it was a little bit uneventful. And from the clinch, Yusuke Yachi was throwing knees, which hit Isao in the nuts, and they had a stoppage there. But yeah, after that, I think Isao had completed another takedown and ended up in guard, full guard. Just stays on top till the end of the round. I gave that one to Isao. For round two, Isao starts pressing up against the cage again, works a takedown again, more knees from the clinch, the same kind that hurt Isao's nuts in round one. Isao does get a cool takedown here. It was from a Kimura trap. Was able to take down Yachi from standing. But after the takedown, Yachi's able to reverse, and then I believe he gets into half guard, and then eventually they both get up, and then there's more clinching and more knees up against the fence. But this one, I think, could have been a Yachi round. Pretty uneventful. For round three, same clinch, same knees from the clinch, the low knees. Isao ends up getting a takedown. After that, Yusuke Yachi gets back up. Then they clinch again. They go up against the fence again. And there's one more, I believe, Isao takedown. And that's about it. So I don't know. I think just based off of the control time or the takedowns, I gave it to Isao, but it really could have gone either way. It's not a robbery by any means, and I'm pretty sure Yachi probably got the best on the feet. So again, not a super exciting fight, but we had our winner Yusuke Yachi defeating the veteran Isao. All right, so now moving on to the flyweights. We had Daichi Tomizawa versus Rui Kato. This one was great. So this one was quick also. So this was a round one finish. And just right off the bat, Rui Kato, 5-7. Tomizawa, 2-2. This one started off with a crazy pace, particularly put on by Kato. He was just like, he just darted out and just kept like feinting and just, what you would imagine a flyweight fast-paced fight would look like. I feel like the bigger, the heavier the guys are, the more relaxed they look in there. But this guy was just like the Energizer Bunny, just go, go, go. But essentially, Kato kept taking Tomizawa down. He hit a beautiful judo throw and just regular wrestling takedowns as well. But Kato was basically just trying to take him down and probably ground and pound him. And Tomizawa kept getting up. So it's kind of like, you take him down, they get back up. So who's winning? Arguably, I would say the person taking him down, but they're also being reversed. So anyway, after one of these scrambles, as Tomizawa is trying to get back up, he's in open guard, and Kato's above him, and he's throwing like up kicks, and one of them really, really hurts Kato. I think the ref missed it. It could have probably been stopped there, but it ends up dropping Kato, and Tomizawa was able to get on top and just kind of work a finish from ground and pound. But basically, yeah, I think he had finished him with elbows. But basically, this was pretty much over when he got clocked with one of the up kicks. So Tomizawa was on his back throwing up kicks, and one of them just chins Kato. In my opinion, Kato was winning probably, but anything can happen. So he got hit with the up kick, and then eventually finished with elbows. So real fun fight, round one finish. Moving on, speaking of round one finishes, we had Naoki versus Kaisei Kuroi. Kaisei Kuroi came into this at 8-4. This is a featherweight match. Naoki at 2-2. Naoki is says here they're both coming from deep, but Naoki was also a Rise kickboxing champion, so he has a lot of striking ability. Naoki's entrance was kind of wild. He had like a group of girl dancers, and he came out kind of like a Jabberwocky with a mask, and also did a dance. So very reminiscent of the old Pride days, like something maybe like Mayhem Miller would have done, or like Anderson Silva with the Jabberwocky mask. But yeah, bit of a showman there, and luckily for him, it turned out okay. So Naoki defeats Rui Kato via strikes. So we'll just break this one down. Round one. All right. So Kuroi probably wanted to take advantage of the fact that Naoki is not really a grappler, right? Most of his experience is in the striking realm. So starting in round one, we had an immediate takedown from Kuroi. He just put him against the fence and just took him down. Stayed on top and just did classic jiu-jitsu, just past the half guard, got into side control, and then moved to north-south. And from there, he ends up getting a setup for an armbar. And it's a deep armbar, and he's trying to submit Naoki. And Naoki does this great... Now, Naoki's armbar defense, like instead of a technical jiu-jitsu defense where you would do, some sort of intricate movement to kind of escape, this guy just stands up. So Naoki stands up with Kuroi trying to break his arm. And he stands up, and he's holding him and kind of shakes him off and is able to get out of it. And it looked real deep. Like, I think commentary and me, I was like, holy shit, this guy's arm is about to be broken in half. But nope, he survives it. And gets out of the armbar. Then there's a scramble. They fall down. Oh no, sorry. So he gets up with Kuroi hanging off of his arm. Then falls back down, and then Kuroi looses the armbar. They scramble out of that, and then they get back on their feet. And at this point, Naoki's able to land a knee, and just completely drops and TKOs Kuroi from there. A round one finish TKO for Naoki, which was awesome because like 5 seconds earlier, it looked like he was about to have his arm broken. So that was a really exciting fight. One of the more fun ones in the card. So we'll see how Naoki does in the future. All right. And moving on to the opener of at least what was broadcast on RIZIN TV. So this card had some prelims. A lot of them were kickboxing matches. And the way it works is that a lot of the time for the prelims, you can watch those on YouTube, like the early prelims, but they don't show those on RIZIN TV RIZIN.TV for some reason. So I did not watch the YouTube prelims. I just had my RIZIN.TV subscription and just watch what was broadcast there. And this was the opener, and it was Koki Akada versus Seiya Inoue. Inoue coming in at 1-1, sorry, 0-1, and Akada at 0-3. So somebody had to win. I know it had to go here. Usually it's the other way around, but yeah. Honestly, man, this fight was kind of super boring. I, I mean, it sucks that it was like the opening fight. Like if somebody's purchasing a RIZIN card for the first time and it's like, hey, what's this about? And then they get to see this as kind of the opening. We'll get to why I thought it was boring in a second, but We have a victory for Seiya Inoue, going from 0-1 to 1-1. So Seiya Inoue is able to get a KO with a left hook in the third round. So, I did say the fight was boring, but it certainly ended up being an exciting finish. So let's get to round one here. So the story of this fight was Okada trying for takedowns that were completely stuffed by Inoue and being pressed up against the fence, and then Okada unable to finish a takedown or do anything else other than just lean up against Okada. And that was basically the entirety of round one. He would just shoot, they end up running into the fence. Okada would get an underhook and some wrist control or bicep control. So basically stuffing the takedown and just, preventing Okada from finishing. And they're kind of like this, right? So this is in Inoue, this is Okada, and this is the fence, and they're just like this, and nothing much is happening other than him defending. It got broken up a few times, I think, where the ref was like, "Hey, you got to do something," and they would break him up, and then they would start fighting again, and then Okada would just do that, run him back, and same thing, and they would just stay there forever. That was pretty much the entirety of round one and round two, at least from my observation. I think, yeah, in round two, the ref broke it up a couple times and was like, "Hey, you guys got to do something." But Okada just kept going for that takedown without any setup. So like, even if the fence weren't there, right? If you don't, if you go for that kind of takedown, I think he was going for like a double leg, but without any penetration step, your opponent is going to be able to sprawl on you, or not even a full sprawl, just kind of lean against you, and you end up like an A shape, right? You're kind of driving here, and they counteract by doing this, right? Um, if Akada had was able to penetrate and get into the legs and basically be down here, Inoue would either go forward or be taken back. And if he goes forward and he ends up draping over your back, you can cut the corner and finish a double leg from there. And if they go back, that's exactly what you want, right? But you need to be able to penetrate deep enough so that you can have control of the legs as you drive through. Uh, Akada wasn't setting up anything. He was just kind of like reaching for the legs, and his head was like up by like into his sternum. So it gave him plenty of time to just stuff it and be like, nope, get the underhook and just stop it every time. So for something that he tried over and over again, you'd think he'd be better at setting that up. But regardless, pretty boring first two rounds. But Inoue is able to come back, and early in the third round, he hits him with a left hook, dropping Okada. And fortunately for Okada, he's 0-4 now. But it's just the name of the game, man. It's a brutal sport. All right, so that's it for the rundown and my reaction to Landmark 14. Just one thing I thought of as I was running through everything. I didn't mention, well, as I was breaking down the main event, I did say that it was a championship fight, but you might have noticed it was only 3 rounds. That's a RIZIN thing, so they don't have 5-round main events or 5-round championship fights. I think they inherited that from Pride. Pride didn't do that either, but that's no big deal because they have a different set of rules altogether, right? So in RIZIN, you can knee and kick grounded opponents. Like you can do soccer kicks. You can even stop the face. That's something that is not allowed in any commission here in the states. So they have different rules. I think that's colloquially known as the superior rule set by MMA fans, and it's because it gives more exciting finishes, and it's also just more realistic. Like if you're in a street fight and somebody's like, "Oh, I can't kick you because you're on the ground," like that's crazy. So there are consequences and less gamesmanship in RIZIN, in my opinion, because of that. Because you can get kicked in the face, you can get soccer kicked in the face, so that's pretty brutal. And on top of that, even like the scoring criteria is different. Like they got rid of draws in RIZIN. So for example, if they do have a 10-point must system, which is a new thing, but because before they used to judge the fight as a whole, but that was just kind of hard to understand. So this year, I believe they switched it over to a 10-point must system like the UFC. But if a fight is ruled a draw, they have this other system to judge who won the fight, and it's called the 3D or yeah, I think the 3D system, because they judge based on damage, dominance, and duration. And based off of that criteria, if it scored a draw, they will determine a winner for the whole bout. And if it's not scored a draw, then you don't need to have that. So it's kind of a way to prevent any draws, which is important for an organization like RIZIN because they do a lot of tournaments, right? I know in the West we hate tournaments. It seems a lot of the MMA media uh, actively promotes against tournaments. I think one of the big knocks of the PFL was the tournament structure, but they're still big in Japan. And when you have a draw, you know, who wins, right? You need to establish a winner, um, which is why the RIZIN rule set, I think, prevents a draw from ever happening. So, with that in mind, a lot to look forward to with RIZIN Landmark 15 and RIZIN 54. It's going to be an exciting year with RIZIN having an event every month of the year. Um, JMMA, Japanese MMA, is I feel like it's on the come up. I keep hearing more about them in Western media as well. Like Scott Coker did an interview with Ariel Helwani, and he was just praising RIZIN up and down. So that's great. You know, the more eyes we get on it, hopefully the more popular it gets and the more we can consume as fans. All right, we'll switch back here. Yeah, so those are my thoughts for the event. I wanted to thank all of you that watch. I mean, I know I'm just one guy by myself kind of ranting about, stuff that some people might find boring. I hope a lot of you find it informational. I am not an expert by any means. I really enjoy watching this stuff. And the whole goal of the channel is to have one place where you can kind of learn about what's happening in all sorts of areas in combat sports in Japan. So, what's happening in kickboxing, in MMA, sumo, which I'm a huge fan of, and I just couldn't find one repository for all that stuff. Like there are a lot of sumo channels or a lot of MMA channels or kickboxing. So I figured, I'd try and make my own thing, and that's the whole point. So anyway, thank you for all of you that watch. It means a lot. It's a brand new channel, doing my best. I have some ideas for how to move forward, but I'd love to hear what you think about what you would like to see. I was thinking about maybe producing other types of content besides just covering combat sports, maybe some sort of training vlog, either showing, my jiu-jitsu training or maybe showing competitions, that kind of thing. Um, I'm hoping to maybe start interviewing a few fighters, either here locally, or just whoever I can get, honestly, just to get the practice. But yeah, I'd be interested to know what you think about that. It's a brand new channel, so I'm just trying to make it better. So please, if you have any opinions or ideas, let me know. But I will continue to do this coverage of the Japanese combat sports scene because I do think that it lacks some attention, and I'm passionate about it. I think it's awesome, and I want more people to know about it. So I think the primary function of the channel is to cover Japanese combat, but I'm also interested in just hearing what you guys want to see as well. So that's it. This was a longer one, so thank you so much for watching and listening. Japanese combat sports has a rich tradition and is extremely active, so I feel like I'll have a lot to talk about every week. And RIZIN is incredible. I really, really enjoy watching them and highly recommend you get into it as well. And yeah, that's it. I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you so much. See you in the next one.